Hello, thank you for taking time out. This video is on the nakshatra of Purva Bhadrapada, and as per mythology it's ruled by Lord Aja Ekapad. This nakshatra belongs to revolutionaries and I'll be sharing the reasons behind it shortly. I'll first start by sharing the mythology linked to Lord Aja Ekapad, and later we'll be going through how different planets behave in this constellation. Lord Aja Ekapad is known to be the one-legged unborn one, and that one-legged form is compared to the power of lightning. He is represented by that single bolt of lightning, or he's the lightning itself. When lightning strikes, it burns everything at once. It strikes rapidly, suddenly. That is the character of Lord Aja Ekapad. So the native too, a Purva Bhadrapada native too, would have this power to bring a change on a large scale, suddenly and quickly. The destructive power of the lightning, of fire, is highlighted by the main symbol of this nakshatra, and that is the front legs of a funeral cart, which directly links this nakshatra to themes of death and destruction. No revolution can occur without fighting a battle. You can't have peace without bloodshed, as they say, and that is what this nakshatra is all about, bringing a change, even by force. It wouldn't be of any surprise to you that this nakshatra has the nature belonging to Ugra, which translates to fierce. So the native would go all out, all eggs in one basket, to achieve one's mission, one's goal. It's a good time for me to introduce that this nakshatra is ruled by Jupiter. So the fight the native might be fighting would be based on principle. That I see people following the wrong path in the society and something needs to be done. So the fight is on a philosophical plane, since Jupiter is ruling it. And a prime example right away is Karl Marx. In his chart I find Saturn in this nakshatra, and Jupiter is in Purva Ashadha. So if you combine Saturn, Purva Bhadrapada, this signifies this person would be fighting a big fight and would be ready to fight till the end. The Saturn's perseverance is combined with the revolutionary nature of this constellation, and Jupiter is in Purva Ashadha, therefore the fight is on a philosophical plane. He fought the idea of capitalism. And another great example who also has Saturn in Purva Bhadrapada is Pope Francis. Again, he is also fighting a big fight. In his case, I find Jupiter in Mula, and fighting for the ones who are suffering, fighting for the ones who are abandoned by the society, is a very Mula-like activity. So yes, this is a constellation belonging to revolutionaries where you must study where Jupiter is placed. Another example is Martin Luther King Jr. He has Moon in Purva Bhadrapada. So he has a mind of a revolutionary thinker. Jupiter in his chart is in Ashwini. So he's trying to heal the society. And Saturn, we must not forget, 3/4 of this nakshatra falls in the sign of Aquarius, ruled by Saturn. So both Jupiter and Saturn's position would be crucial, and Saturn in his chart is in Mula. Again, he's fighting for the ones who are suffering. He's a revolutionary thinker, healing the society, Jupiter Ashwini, and ready for a long drawn fight, Saturn Mula, and fighting for the ones who are going through discrimination. And another great example is Abraham Lincoln, who has Jupiter in Purva Bhadrapada. His fight, his revolution, is also on a philosophical plane. The reason why I've shared all these examples with you is to give you an indication of what this nakshatra is all about. A mashan is another symbol belonging to this nakshatra, which is symbolic of the native's ability to bring a change and continue one's fight relentlessly until one's mission is accomplished. The native would continue to work and work and work until that metaphorical bullseye is struck. So once the native has decided on a cause, once the native has made up one's mind, the native would go all out. The fierce Ugra nature would continue to fuel the passion the native feels for something, and the native would only finish at accomplishing one's mission. Despite the Ugra nature of this nakshatra, the caste belonging to this nakshatra is that of a Brahmin, and therefore the native would look at life philosophically. No fight the native would be fighting which is illogical, which is for selfish reasons. The native would have an idea contrary to popular belief. Karl Marx is a great example, and it won't be any surprise to you that this nakshatra belongs to the guna, the quality of Sattvic, selfless. So the native is ready for a long drawn fight, ready to bring a change in the society, but not necessarily for one's own interest. That is one of the most admirable qualities of this constellation. And lastly, this nakshatra has the Ghana belonging to Manusha, human-like. So the native would be affected by one's circumstances, happy when a victory is achieved, one's mission is accomplished, a change has been brought about, and sadness when one's mission is faced with challenges. Sometimes the native might feel, oh, I've done something wrong. And to absolve oneself from the native's perceived ill actions, the native may resort to harsh penance or severe asceticism. And this is where this human-like way of doing things would be visible. Since the native would take on the world, so to say, no change is possible if you don't challenge popular beliefs. So in many ways you're taking on the world. The native would go through difficult circumstances in one's life. The fight would be long and the fight would be challenging, and therefore the native on the other side of the battle would be seen as someone very experienced, very mature, very brave, very wise. So much so that the native can even make spirituality one's main goal. And in that too, the native would go all out. The native would do everything possible to awaken oneself on a spiritual plane. So Purva Bhadrapada in many ways is about awakening. On a material plane you see injustice, and that awakens in you that revolutionary. Or you realize through your ill actions the impurity of your mind. You make an effort to awaken yourself on a spiritual plane. So if you have your rising as Purva Bhadrapada, you'll be full of passion, very driven, very philosophical in your thinking. One of the main downsides would be you'll not know when to stop. You could be seen as someone who goes to the extreme. If you feel strongly about something, you go to the extreme. The Ugra side would be visible in your character. A lot naturally would depend on where Jupiter and Saturn is placed. If this nakshatra falls in the sign of Pisces, then Jupiter's role alone would determine what shade of Purva Bhadrapada are you expressing through your personality. Furthermore, you'd have to also see in which sign does your rising falls in the Navamsha, and that would be the first 4 signs. If it's the sign of Aries, that passion, that drive, the never give up attitude, the courage, the determination, and even recklessness to take on the entire world would be more visible in your character. If it's the sign of Taurus, then Venus comes into the picture, and therefore you'd carry a very attractive demeanor, Your philosophical ideas and your revolutionary thinking can naturally draw attention. If it's the sign of Gemini, it's going to be your Mercury-related qualities that would draw attention, like revolutionaries who take on writing, or in these days, YouTubing. So you present your views freely and openly. It's going to be part of your character to express yourself. And if it's the sign of Cancer, the Sattvic, selfless side of this nakshatra would be more visible in your character. So a lot depends on where Jupiter is placed and in which pada does Purva Bhadrapada falls in the Navamsha, but studying a planet's position in this nakshatra is an excellent start, so let's do that. So if you have your moon in Purva Bhadrapada, you'd have a mind of a revolutionary thinker. I'd earlier shared the example of Martin Luther King Jr. So your mind would function in such a way that you'd like to see a change. You'd like to be the reason behind the change. The good news here is Moon and Jupiter, the nakshatra ruler, share an excellent relationship. So your fight would be within reason. So your fight wouldn't create any disharmony of any kind. Like a peaceful protest, you are generating awareness, spreading awareness, should I say. And when challenged, you'd respond passionately. So when things make you angry, your anger would be visible in your mannerism. This Sattvic side of this nakshatra would be more visible in your character. Your fight would largely be to protect people. Moon, Jupiter and Saturn are coming together in this position, particularly if Purva Bhadrapada falls in the sign of Aquarius. This can lead to a career in medical research. On the whole, I think you would be the kind of person who's unafraid of challenges, and your mind would be racing to fight the injustices you are seeing. You'll immediately respond that no, this is wrong and we have to do something about it, and you'll not hold back. And you'll also have this sense of optimism that no matter how difficult the challenge, we'll overcome it. And that comes from Jupiter's rulership and the friendly relationship Moon and Jupiter share. So altogether I find a Moon Purva Bhadrapada-like person full of passion. That's my view. When Sun is in Purva Bhadrapada, you'd make an excellent revolutionary leader. Sun is all about leadership, and given a strong relationship Sun and Jupiter share, not only can you be a leader, you can be an inspirational figure. And your leadership style would be such that you lead by example. You'd be unafraid of challenges and you'll fulfill your promise. So even if you're leading a revolution which seems full of challenges, people would trust you. That comes from Sun. They'd feel with you they can overcome this difficulty or any difficulty. Sun is also known to eradicate diseases. So together Sun, Jupiter in particular can lead to you being very knowledgeable in the healthcare industry, and this can even lead to a career in medical research. And Sun Jupiter's coming together can even lead to you being a spiritual leader. I'd earlier mentioned that a Purva Bhadrapada native could rise above the material plane. Now if this position falls in the sign of Aquarius, now Saturn comes into the picture. And in that scenario, the native might feel challenged. When one is leading a large-scale revolution, a change of some kind, the native would feel challenged and would also take time to overcome that resistance. So perhaps at the early stages, the native may not be full of confidence. The Sun and Saturn share a bad relationship, and Sun is known to burn relationships. So the native can also keep running into ego battles, battles of ideology, that you know what, this has to be done, and the opposing party is saying that, I disagree, and there's this challenge. And lastly, the native could carry a persona that others would follow, a Sun Purva Bhadrapada-like native to bring a change, like a single bolt of lightning which changes everything it touches.
The same would be the perceived capability of a Sun Purva Bhadrapada-like person, that one person is alone to bring a change. That is my view of Sun in this position. When Mercury is in Purva Bhadrapada, you'll draw attention to your views, to your unconventional, revolutionary thinking. You'd make an excellent storyteller, like a journalist, explaining what is wrong in politics and what can be done to change things, how to remove corruption. So you'd be able to put your revolutionary ideas succinctly. Now here's something interesting. Mercury and Jupiter don't share the best relationship. So at times your views can be seen as too grandiose. And most people may feel your ideas are impractical. Any project that requires careful analysis, think you'll do an excellent job. So your future can be in data analytics, where you are given a task and you have to, at the end of the task, come up with meaningful, actionable insights. So anything that challenges you on an intellectual plane, you'll take up that challenge and you'll never give up. That would be your greatest quality. Your views would be seen as extreme, harsh, rude. We must not forget that this nakshatra has an Ugra nature. This can be a difficult position, as the native can take on a controversial position on issues and may not know the consequences of taking such an extreme stand. Like someone says, I don't agree with the politics in my country and I'm going to start another party. And we are going to bring a change. So this is a grandiose idea, perhaps impractical, as every step requires following through, fighting for a long time. And when Mercury is there, that following through with one's plan of action might be missing. It's a combination where the person may have big thinking but not have the necessary resources to follow through one's thinking, to convert one's idea into action. And lastly, I think this position can lead to a heightened curiosity to learn about different things. Mercury and Jupiter coming together, and if it's falling in the sign of Pisces, I think it's an even stronger position. The native can even use one's imagination to tell creative stories. This combination can lead to a fiction writer. In that case, the native might revolutionize the fiction writing industry. It's a fascinating position. When Venus is in Purva Bhadrapada, you could revolutionize the money sector. Venus signifies all careers in finance. Or you could be behind an invention in design. Venus signifies the entire design sector. But the most important aspect of this position is linked to love. Firstly, I think there'll be this underlying passion and drive that's due to this Ugra nature, and perhaps this domineering attitude you might have in relationships. This Ugra side would be visible in your love life. And those big ideas, living happily ever after, living in a quiet place in a remote island, all of them might originate from this position. Here, Venus and Jupiter coming together. The good news here is, even if your ideas of romance can be impractical, you'd be willing to work things out. And you'd be a very picky person. Who you like, what you see in that person. You'd look at love as a mission to find the one who you feel you can be inspired from. Venus also is known for a softer maternal side, like Moon. So here the Sattvic Guna, the selfless Guna, would be visible in your mannerism. You'd look after your loved ones. This combination also belongs to art directors, as Venus and Jupiter are coming together. Venus signifies our desires on a material plane, but here think you'd have the capability to rise above the pleasures on a material plane. You may start off wanting the big things in life, but later may realize that those things are not leading to any lasting happiness. And lastly, in any revolution, you need the support of various parties. So if you're starting a political movement, you need the support of bankers, for example, to support your cause. And a Venus Purva Bhadrapada-like person could play that role, that bridge. You'd have the ability to bring people together for a common cause. And that is going to be one of the greatest strengths the native would have. Overall, I find this position to be a strong one. That's my view. When Mars is in Purva Bhadrapada, your passion and drive for the cause you're fighting for would be very visible. No revolution ever starts without passion, and that comes from Mars. And the native would not know when to stop. Once the native has found a goal, a mission to fulfill, the native would go on and on. That never give up attitude, not stopping until the goal is accomplished. So in many ways the native would be an inspiration. Since Mars belongs to the caste of a Kshatriya, a warrior, the revolution here can also be military in nature. Like the native is behind rallying people around oneself, commanding them to pick up arms and fight the system. And this can happen even in the corporate sector, where there is a question of unequal pay. The native has started a revolution. Here the battleground is within the company, or it's in a courtroom, or even in a sports field. The native would be a fighter, and an excellent one. That's the first thing. This can even translate to the native being behind scientific inventions, those engineering marvels. It's reminding me of the Iron Man, where he built the iron suit inside a cave. The Mars Purva Bhadrapada-like native would carry that optimism that anything is possible. The native would be technically very strong, particularly if Purva Bhadrapada falls in the sign of Aquarius, and would also have this gift of knowledge to put one's technical expertise into practice. Due to Jupiter's rulership, the native could also be an entrepreneur. Here the native would see entrepreneurship as a challenge, as a mission. So if the native doesn't have a purpose, a mission, the native would feel very dissatisfied. This is a combination full of passion, full of energy, full of wanting to do things. And if that purpose is missing, the native can go to the extreme, finding something to fight for, and in pursuit of that, the native can start fighting the wrong issue. Mars is known to have a tamasic energy, darkness. So here, the native may pick up arms against the wrong kind of enemy, may take law in one's own hands. So proper guidance would be necessary with this position. But if the native is well guided, the native can accomplish things no one thought anyone could do. That is the capability the native would possess. Being single-minded, being uncompromising, going to the extreme, those are challenges a Mars Purva Bhadrapada-like native would need to overcome. That's my view. When Jupiter is in Purva Bhadrapada, your fight would be on a philosophical plane. Think you'd have those big ideas, how society can be changed, how things can become better. And to most people, those ideas might seem too grandiose, impractical, as here Jupiter is the main planetary energy that's in focus. Jupiter is in its own nakshatra. So if the others are not at the same philosophical plane as you, they'd not understand what you're going on about. The good news here is the Ugra side linked to this nakshatra, the fierce side, would be controlled. Your fight would always be on principle. This would lead to you challenging the government in the court. So your battlefield can be a courtroom rather than taking up arms in the street. Like you hear of public interest litigators. One way or the other, you're going to be a teacher, mentor, an inspiration to people. Either you're doing so, as that's your work, or your way of life has been such, there has been an inspiration. Both Jupiter and this nakshatra belong to the same caste and that of a Brahmin. This combination can lead to plenty of opportunity for you to explore the world. Not only that, you'd also find plenty of opportunity to learn from life. Not only would you get to learn from life experience, you may also run into the right kind of teachers in life. Jupiter is behind growth opportunities, and this position therefore would present those opportunities. You may find yourself in a position in the society to be able to make a difference, and that can even be on a spiritual plane. Jupiter shares an excellent relationship with Saturn, should this nakshatra fall in the sign of Aquarius, and together Jupiter and Saturn can lead to scientific discoveries. So altogether I find this position to be a strong position. I think you'd have a good sense of right and wrong, so you'd not find yourself fighting the wrong fight. That's my view. When Saturn is in Purva Bhadrapada, I think you'll be ready for a long drawn fight to bring a change in the society. And your fight would also be to serve the people. And you do whatever you do on a large scale, particularly if this position falls in the sign of Aquarius. Like those social workers who take on the street to highlight the use of coal in our industry and how it's polluting the environment. So you're serving the people by raising their concerns on a large scale. The quality to never give up and to endure the difficulties would be one of your greatest qualities. This combination can also lead to scientific inventions. Every such invention has many hours of hard work behind it. So perseverance comes from Saturn, and this understanding of things comes from Jupiter. Eventually the native could become such a master in one's field that the native may have the capability to revolutionize one's industry or work entirely. The native would lead by example. That would be the leadership style, and the native would rally support. Due to that, the native would not consider oneself different from the team. This position can also lead to the native being very knowledgeable in an ancient science. One of the major downsides would be going to the extreme. Earlier I'd highlighted that out of guilt the native might resort to harsh penance or severe asceticism of some kind, and this position might be linked to that behavior. This is one of the positions where the native would be a very wise and mature person. However, this would only happen after the native has gone through several phases of hardships. It's going to be one's experience of life, experience of the hardships of life, that would make the native what the native is. On the whole, the native would be an inspiration. The courage the native would display under difficult times would be an inspiration for people. That's my view of Saturn in this position. When Rahu is in Purva Bhadrapada, it's very likely that the native is fighting the wrong fight. The native might be fighting the wrong enemy. Rahu clouds our judgment, and the native might even delude oneself into thinking that what one is doing is helping the society. Or the native might have a self-interest. So this is a difficult position, but when the native has proper guidance, the native would display the qualities of this nakshatra, this never give up attitude, this single-mindedness to achieve one's mission. A proper guidance would be necessary, and in pursuit of one's mission the native can go to the extreme. Rahu is known for cruelty, and this nakshatra has an Ugra side, and the native can even resort to the wrong kind of means. The native may instigate the use of force. This combination can lead to plenty of opportunity for a person to experience life, and I'm referring to foreign travel. The native can even fight for issues which are entirely foreign to the native, or fighting a battle in a place foreign. The other downside would be the native's lack of judgment in knowing when to stop. This nakshatra is a lot about purification. So when the native is struck by the realization of one's ill actions, the native can go to the extreme. Out of guilt, the native might take on an extreme form of penance of some kind, or may even resort to addictions. So it's a difficult position. Proper guidance would be necessary. That's my view. When Ketu is in Purva Bhadrapada, I think in any battle you're fighting for, there's a high possibility of you going to the extreme. This nakshatra has an Ugra side, and Ketu is also known for cruelty. That we want this, a complete eradication of that policy or nothing else. The native can be very uncompromising. The native could also fight one's battle in a secretive way. So this can translate to the native running a secret organization fighting the system, for example. Here Ketu and Jupiter are coming together, so the native can be an expert in an ancient science, or the native can naturally be drawn to a particular subject. So that natural inclination towards learning essentially would be seen. The native can even feel inspired to awaken oneself on a spiritual plane. Here Ketu creates the perfect grounds for that awakening, as Ketu is a lot about living life in isolation. The native would make an excellent strategic planner and can also be behind scientific inventions of some kind. I think this position is a better position than Rahu in Purva Bhadrapada, as the native would be more willing to introspect one's extreme stand on an issue, whereas in Rahu Purva Bhadrapada, the native may keep fighting the wrong kind of fight and may not know when to stop. Both these positions would require that the native has proper guidance. That's my view. Thank you for watching this video till the very end. If you have any questions, please post them in the comment section, and if you'd like to stay in touch, please subscribe to this channel. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.